Sure. Okay, we'll start. We'll give about again. I guess we'll give it about like 7:05 when we'll start. Just give a couple more people to hop in.
Yeah, I guess technology is always kind of tricky nowadays.
Y'all ought to be used to it by now.
That's what I would have thought, right? Yeah.
What do you guys use for
our-
class? Do you guys use Zoom for classes?
Yeah, we do.
Mhm.
Have you guys ever used Microsoft Teams? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I actually a job that I work, catering job. It's called Constellation. They use Microsoft Team there, and I was able to hop in there for what do you call a meeting.
Nice. Yeah, that's what we use here for everything. That's what we did use for all the virtual stuff this off season. So
How
How do you like that better than what do you like better, Zoom or Microsoft Team?
I mean, honestly, I kind of like Zoom better because the issue with the Teams is you could always see like 4 people on the screen. So we're doing like training sessions, with 10 guys, and I can only see half of them. So they just pretty much, we were doing that for like 3 months, and then they finally were able to like add, squares like this. So I'm not sure why it took so long, but obviously I think that was the benefit of Zoom, but I think we were kind of locked in with Microsoft. But outside of that, it's all the same to me.
Hey, Callista, how you doing?
Hey, sorry. I'm good. How are you?
Hey, not too bad. Doing well. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, we'll probably get started right now. I mean, I know it's 2 minutes earlier than what I said, but so I would like to introduce Michael Minnis, the assistant strength and conditioning coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and also the coordinator of performance and nutrition. Mr. Minnis attended the University of Kansas, where he earned his bachelor's of science in 2011, later acquiring another bachelor's of dietetic and dietitian at Kansas State University in 2013. Finally, he attained his master's of human nutrition, sports nutrition at Kansas State University. Mr. Minnis has an extensive list of experiences stemming down from his first as a performance nutrition intern with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2015, followed by a sports dietitian intern position with the University of Texas, Austin in 2015 as well. Within the same year, he also interned with the Philadelphia Eagles strength and conditioning coach and sports science staff. He is a registered dietitian and a certified strength and conditioning specialist. Mr. Minnis started his career as a dietitian, taking the role of director of performance nutrition at the University of Southern California for the football team. He is now a part of the Philadelphia Eagles sports medicine and performance staff. And I would like to please welcome Mr. Minnis.
Cool. Thanks, Sam. Hey, yeah, it's awesome to be back. I came in person. Who was there last year? Anybody on here outside of Mike? Nice, so a few of them. So that was fun. I think that was like last October. So yeah, always happy to chat. So some of this might be repetitive, I guess, to some of you that were still there, but obviously we can talk about some of the changes with COVID and things like that, some of the nuances that have come up from all that. So hopefully we can touch on some new topics as well. But yeah, just like you said, I've kind of just been bouncing around. I'm from Kansas originally, and then kind of did a plethora of different internships and experiences kind of to get where I'm at now. And like you said, my first full-time job was at University of Southern California in 2015. So I really haven't been in the game too long, relatively speaking, full-time. So I'm still, learning and growing. And yeah, so was there for 1 year. And then this is my 5th year here with the Eagles. So when Doug Peterson came in at 16, I came in with him. So, in my role, I kind of want, I guess, talk through my specific role, which is it's a little unique. And kind of talk a little bit about, kind of what that entails depending on the time of the year. And then, I'll kind of touch on kind of what the whole COVID thing has been like for us and how we've adapted. And then, like I said, I'd love to just open it up if anybody's got any specific questions about the role or the path or anything like that. I think that's obviously the most useful use of time. So anyway, so I do a dual role. So my kind of my primary role is the nutrition. So I'm a registered dietitian and did my dietetic undergrad and master's at Kansas State, and then I did my dietetic internship at University of Oklahoma. So I'm a registered dietitian. That's kind of my primary role here. And so really that role entails, number one, we work with our kitchen staff very closely. So we have an in-house company that does all of our meals. So obviously that's number one priority, is making sure that the guys are fed, right? I mean, there's energy availability and we have food available for the athletes. So, we do 4 meals a day at certain times of the year: breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night snacks. Right now we're doing breakfast, lunch, dinner. Then we talk about, all the road now that we're traveling and in season, what do we eat on the airplane? And then what do we eat at the hotel? And then what do we eat at the stadium? So there's a lot of like food service logistics that go in with that. But here, just working closely with our chefs, making sure that we're blessed with resources so we can get, top quality food, across all categories. And so we're kind of spoiled in that sense. But it's a lot of responsibility on my plate too, because with all the resources we have, it's really up to me to be the best and to bring the best in at all times for the athletes. So always making sure we're sourcing, quality, proteins, fruits, vegetables, things like that, trying to get local if we can and that type of thing. We do all like grass-fed beef. We try to go, organic produce as much as possible. And again, you go back and forth on organic versus non-organic. But it's like, if you have the resources, why would you not, So that's kind of how I think about it. Same with like the grass-fed beef and things like that. So we're just trying to go top quality on everything because that's what our athletes deserve. And so, we make sure, it's I kind of have a different philosophy a little bit. I just like to have a lot of options because I do think, you can't have all these clean options for everyone, right? Because there's a lot of people that are trying to gain weight too. So you can't just have like a grilled chicken and brown rice and a steamed vegetable for every meal, because there's some guys that like really need, they can't eat that many calories from those types of fibrous foods and filling foods. And so you kind of got to have some of those other foods. So we always have like a combination. So for example, if we had 2 proteins, 2 carbs, 2 starches, and 2 veg, maybe I always tell our chefs we have to have 1 lean protein. So maybe a grilled chicken, let's just say, to keep it simple. And then a lean starch would be, let's say, a brown rice, just to keep it very simple. And then steamed broccoli. And then on the other side of that, maybe we could have like a sirloin steak or a fatty cut of fish or something like that. And then we could do like a mac and cheese. So maybe like a heavier starch. And then maybe like a roasted vegetable, so with some oil on it, or a starchy vegetable like a carrot. So then you're kind of getting like, you're giving the guys options. So a guy can go in there and build a really clean, super like healthy plate, or a guy can maybe splurge a little bit and get some high calories, like, calorically dense foods. And so again, that's a very generalized way I think about the menus. But I mean, we have, obviously the COVID thing has very much changed the way we serve. But I mean, before COVID, I mean, you could go in there and get pretty much anything you could desire. I mean, for breakfast, you could go in there, there's a made to order smoothie station with every fruit, you could possibly imagine: almond milk, cow's milk, chia seeds, peanut butter, almond butter, you know what I mean? Like everything. And then you could get an omelet or eggs made to order, and then there'd be egg whites, eggs. And then you can move down the line and you could get, turkey sausage, pork sausage, breakfast potatoes. You could get a waffle made. I mean, you get like overnight oats and oatmeal and cereals, and like you think of it, and we had it. So it's really up to us to educate the guys on making good decisions, because options are there. Like a guy, there's no excuse for a guy not to reach goals. If they want to eat very healthy, they have the resources. If they want to have very calorically dense foods to gain weight, they also have those options. So that's the way I think about kind of that energy balance piece, and just kind of, when we come to guys gaining weight and those types of things. And that's another part of what I do is, I help us like set our goal body weights for our guys. So we look at kind of their frame, how tall they are, their wingspan. There's a lot of that goes into it. And we can set their goal body weight. We look at their body composition. So we do body fat, we do skin calipers, 7-side skin calipers. We do that, think it's about 6 times a year. So we just did it last week. So kind of first, trying to see where everybody's at after training camp, week 1 of the season. We'll do it again mid-season, so probably like late October, early November, and then, probably late season as well if we can. So just to kind of check their body comp. So that obviously goes into the body weight, goal body weight too. So, if I have a guy a running back that I think should be 200 to 205 pounds based on their frame, but their body fat's 20% and it's too high, then, maybe let's just say they're 200 pounds, but we'll obviously like getting to 205 is not going to help. So they're probably going to have to drop down, 195, 190, whatever that may be to get in a better body fat range for speed, change the direction ability. So then we'll adjust the weight. So it's always it's written in sand, not cement, is what I like to say. So it's always, always ever changing and evolving as guys are developing and things like that. So that's a big part of it. We even have, rookies that just came in. A lot of those guys have very high development potential. So we have guys are, still gaining 10, 15 pounds. I mean, they're pros, but they still have a lot of room for growth. And then obviously you get into some of the veterans that are a little bit more set in their goal weights, and you're really just more about managing them and managing the recovery. So that's a piece of it. And then obviously we focus a lot on the nutrient timing of things. And so, what are we doing for them pre-training and during training and games and then post-training, obviously from a recovery standpoint, there's certain things you can do from there. And then, some other stuff I'm really into now, maybe a little bit different. So I'm really into like just the biomarker assessment piece. I think like doing like blood draws is big. Like I love getting objective data for guys to look at so that they can see, okay, I have, maybe I have a vitamin B deficiency, or maybe I have a vitamin D deficiency, or my omega-3, my 6-to-3 ratio is high, or whatever. And then you can actually make like dietary changes that they can see, because nutrition is tough, because like training and working out is a little bit easier because you can feel a difference and you can see a difference. And nutrition is such a chronic habit. You can, you eat one good meal. It's not like you're going to feel way better all of a sudden. It's not automatic like that. So if you can give the guys like some objective goals to hit, I always find that helps. So we'll do some blood work, probably about 3 to 4 times a year, just looking at different inflammation markers and recovery markers, micronutrients and things like that. So that's something I'm really into. And then, the whole like gut health and microbiome piece is something that I'm really into right now as well. So just looking at gut health, fiber, prebiotics, probiotics, not just from food, but supplements, and how individualized can we get on that, and analysis of the gut microbiome, because that plays such a huge role in inflammation control. And I think we're just now, it's pretty new field. So I don't know if anybody's is interested in it or not, but I'll definitely look into that piece of it. I think it's really, really interesting. It's just the whole gut microbiome. I mean, it essentially controls everything. I mean, there's a brain gut axis, and a gut lung axis, and there's all sorts of, it's connected to everything. So then that in nutrition is instrumental in your gut health, obviously. So I think that's a really, really cool area. So we try to, we got some probiotics in for the guys when they first came in. I think the diversity of food that we give can help with that. Fiber and those types of things, fruits, vegetables, all those things can help with that. So that's another piece of it. Another piece of the nutrition program is just connective tissue health. So collagen. I mean, I don't know if people take collagen or are into that whole piece of it, but originally, like, I was like not really big on collagen because I always thought it was just used for like hair, skin, nails. That's kind of what I would always heard about it. But it can be really, really instrumental in rebuilding connective tissue, tendons, and ligaments. And so we're really big on trying to add collagen protein wherever we can. And that's something we've really, really been trying to do more of this year. So just trying to like protect that connective tissue and not always just worry so much about just muscle. And then kind of the last piece of the nutrition program is just the return to play, because obviously there are going to be injuries, unfortunately. And so, what can we do to bring guys back quicker, help, rebuild their tissue and those types of things, and whether it's a bone injury or a soft tissue injury. So that whole piece of it, when a guy gets hurt, it's not like we just forget about them. They kind of go on their own nutritional protocol. And so that's a whole another piece of it too. So that's kind of the nutrition piece in a nutshell. Obviously, like the roles, like the day-to-day roles are very dependent on the time of the year. We have an off-season period, which is April to June, which was virtual this year, which is interesting. But and then we go into like a preseason or training camp, which is in July and August. And then now we just entered our kind of in-season schedule. So again, we can get more specific if somebody has a specific question, but that's kind of the roles and the day-to-day kind of change based on the time of year we're in, the season we're in, and our focus may change. For example, like training camp, really hydration is your huge focus, right? Whereas like the off-season program, I think it's more energy balance and weight gain and muscle mass and those types of things. So yeah, again, if anybody has any specific questions about that, we could dive into it. And then from the strength and conditioning side, again, it's very dependent on the time of the year. So in the off season, we get to train with them 4 times a week. We get to work with them on the field. So we really work with their general conditioning. We work speed, change of direction, acceleration. It's really fun. I guess like probably the funnest time of the year for us, because that's basically all they do is work with us for 4 to 6 weeks. They don't even work with the coaches on the field in April and May. They're with the strength and conditioning staff. So we're trying to get them ready for practice basically. And so we run all that, and that's really a time of the year we can lift really heavy in the weight room because now we're not playing games, and so if they get sore, it's like not a big deal. So that's probably like the most fun time just training wise, because guys can really get after it at that time of the year. And again, we love some of the on-field, the speed stuff, because once we get into the in season, we don't really do that anymore because all they do is, they're practicing. So it's very skill, position specific, skill specific. So that's the off season. And then training camp is very, recovery focused. So we can't crush them in the weight room. They're obviously overtraining, overloading on the field. I mean, they're putting out like 30,000 yards of volume in a week. So it's not like you can come in the weight room and crush them again. You know what I mean? So you're really just managing them, really trying to help them recover. So in the training camp, we really focus more on recovery, mobility, stability, those types of things. It's not like banging weights. It's just moving guys, getting their tissue feeling good. We always say they should feel better when they leave than when they come in the weight room during training camp. We'll do pool workouts and things like that. So really like just very feel good stuff in training camp. We're not really in there getting, trying to gain a bunch of strength and things like that, just because it's just really, really hard to do at that time of the year. And then now once we get in season, it kind of like balances out a little bit where we can get some really good sessions in. We lift twice a week. So we lift on Mondays and Thursdays. So we had a lift today. And then the developmental players, so guys that we know aren't going to play, so maybe guys that are on practice squad, or guys aren't taking many reps, we can actually get an extra session with them, so we can get 3 times a week with them. But that's probably the max you're going to get with these guys in the NFL is probably 3 times a week lifting, which you can still get a lot of good quality work out of 3 times a week with these guys. So that's kind of how that looks. So obviously, in the weight room, just we rotate groups. So like today, for example, I had O-line, D-line. So I had the big guys. We kind of had their own workout for them. And then maybe, next week I'll have the skill guys. And then the week after that or the day after that, I'll have the mids or the quarterback. So we kind of rotate. So it's kind of cool because you can kind of see everybody, get to work with everybody. So that's really fun. And then we all kind of are assigned a group that we call like, I guess, an athlete manager. So I overlook the wide receiver group. So that's kind of my sole responsibility in terms of kind of keeping guys accountable. So not just because I don't work with them every day, I'm still responsible for, hey, are they recovering? Like, do they have a good recovery routine? We do a lot of assessments. So force plates, are there force plates? Are they have a lot of asymmetries that we need to address? How are they trending from an asymmetry standpoint or force standpoint? We look at questionnaire, like wellness questionnaire data every week. So kind of soreness and just how guys are feeling. We look at a lot of like velocities and power outputs using GymAware. It's a Tendo unit basically in the weight room. So that's kind of another part of that too, is we're kind of assigned that group. But again, we kind of rotate with everybody. So yeah, that's kind of in short, I guess, or maybe long-winded, however you want to look at it, what I do here. So yeah, I'd love if anybody's got any specific questions, I guess, about my path here or the specific role or any type of season, or I guess anything about the COVID, kind of how we've adapted to that. I'd love to kind of get anybody's thoughts or anybody's questions.
So Mr. Minnis, if you look in the chat, a couple people already started writing questions down.
You want to pick one for me? Just read it off for me.
Yeah, I'll read it out for you. I'll read the first one. So Amanda C. Hughes asked, how does COVID change the way the meals are given, chosen to players? You mentioned previously having options. Has COVID reduced the availability of sourcing certain ingredients, or is it primarily sanitary measures reducing the variety of options prepared at once?
Yeah, great question. So before COVID, I was kind of explaining the flow of everything and all the options, and it was self-serve. So, wherever you were at, a guy or anybody on staff could go up and basically serve themselves. It was almost like a buffet style, I guess you could say. Um, so a plethora of options, made to order. There's plenty of time to get through the line and all those types of things. Sourcing was unlimited, it seemed like. And then when COVID hit, everything had to be, the NFL released a lot of protocols, and one thing they said was it had to be prepackaged. So it had to be like in just a grab and go, basically, format. So they obviously put the plexiglass, screens up. All of the employees have to wear, PPE and those types of things. And it's almost like a TSA line now because obviously in the past, everybody could get their meal and sit down and break bread together and those types of things. Now there's no seats in the kitchen. So they actually have to go sit out in a tent outside, which really sucks for them. It's air conditioned, but it's still not fun. And then like staff, like we just come back and eat in our office. So that's obviously different. And I mean, that's like really an unfortunate part is like people can't eat together. And then we kind of have like a TSA line almost like where you come through, you have to keep kind of social distancing, and then everything's prepackaged. So the way we laid it out, like for a lunch, for example, is we always have a chicken option right at the front. So it'll be let's just say again, keep it simple, grilled chicken, mashed potato, and asparagus. And then if you move down the line, then it'll be like a red meat option. Our guys don't eat a lot of pork, so we just do a lot of like red meat, like different types of steak and things like that. So it'll be that steak, but it'll be the same size. So it'll be like mashed potatoes and asparagus, right? And then it'll move down. We always have a fish item. So let's just say a salmon, mashed potato, asparagus. So we always keep like the same starch and veggie just to kind of keep it like easy for our kitchen staff. And we always have 3 protein options. I always think that's very, very important to give guys that option. And then we have an action station that'll have like maybe it'll be a grain bowl with chicken and sweet potatoes and whatever that may be. So my thing is like if the starch on the entree line is heavy, so I call mashed potatoes like a moderately heavy, I guess. I wouldn't call it super light. Then we'll have like a really light, a rice or a rice pilaf or a couscous or something like that on the action station, and vice versa. If the entree, if that's a very light, lean, whatever you want to call it, starch, then we'll have maybe something heavier on the action station. So again, we're still trying to incorporate all the options that I mentioned before, just really more in a grab and go format. And then like sourcing wise, honestly, like I thought there was going to be something with the red meat and that type of thing, but it really hasn't been an issue, to be honest. At least, the staff hasn't really expressed it to be an issue. So I've actually been pleasantly surprised that we haven't really had a lot of challenges with the sourcing. Part of it is really just more the, guys they just go in there, grab it. It's very time sensitive. They can't sit in there and get anything made to order anymore. It's like, just get it and get out. And so that's unfortunate. It's not as individualized as I'd love it to be, but it kind of is what it is. And the guys understand, and we're making the best out of it.
All right. From Sean, he wrote, do all players have to follow some sort of meal plan? How do you motivate athletes to care more about their nutrition?
So no, not everybody, you don't have to follow a meal plan. And kind of how to make people care. I always explain like it's a spectrum. I think we have a good percentage of guys that are very into nutrition, and that's a mix of rookies, a mix of kind of mid vets, and then a mix of like vets that have been here 10+ years. There's guys that are very into it. They love to learn. They'll ask questions. They'll do everything you ask. They'll do all the testing, the blood testing. They'll do all that stuff, right? And then you kind of have your middle group that's still learning. They're interested. And then you have like your lower group where they just don't really care, or they don't really understand the importance. And again, that's a mix. That's some vets just don't get it. They've never had to, they never had that like aha moment. They've been so naturally gifted their whole life where maybe they didn't have an injury or whatever that may be to motivate them to make that a priority for them. So, I just think, you just got to have like a lot of situational awareness in this position and just kind of sit back and a little bit and see where guys are. You always talk about the kind of readiness to change and those types of things. And yeah, you can't really force anything on anybody. You kind of got, there's guys that I've asked to do the blood testing for 3 years and they said no, and then they finally said yes. So I think there's guys that just like evolve over time, and maybe unfortunately sometimes an injury will cause them to care more. Obviously I wish that wasn't the case, but sometimes a guy will get hurt and maybe he'll get hurt again and again, and now they're like, all right, well, I got to change something, so now let's go to nutrition. So again, it's like so individualized and very different, but I will say, like, one way they are motivated externally is they get fined for being overweight. So it's, if you don't want to take your money, like, you better make it happen. So, I mean, they get fined a pretty hefty amounts. I know I told you last year, $600 a pound. So we do that every week. So we had one guy come in 20 pounds overweight. So you can do the math on that one. But yeah, so that's a motivator, is taking their money. So then a guy obviously is going to have to come by and figure something out. Obviously, I wish that wasn't the prime motivator, but sometimes people are externally motivated. I wish everybody was internally motivated, but they're not.
All right. Next question we got again from Amanda. Does age of the player affect the decisions for their nutrition plan? Further, how personalized are the meal plans? Room from preferences, accommodations, and considerations for allergies?
Say that last part again. So you said, does age affect the meal plan?
Does the age of the player affect the decision for a nutrition plan? And further, how personalized are the meal plans, rooming from preferences, accommodations, and considerations of allergies?
Yeah, I mean, I think like age, not necessarily. I think, like I said, everybody, we have guys across all the spectrum from rookies to 10+ year vets that, might need a nutrition plan, and then you got some that just don't. I mean, I think there's some guys that are pretty locked in, pretty intuitive. Their body comp's great. They stay healthy. So it's not like you got to push a lot of extra stuff on them. They'll kind of just follow I always just kind of say program maintenance, like just follow the program that we set out, eat the food that we have, take the, post-training things that we ask you to take, do the pre-training things we ask you to take, like take the supplements we want you to take. And those types of people, you don't really have to worry about whether, then the age doesn't really matter for them. And it's a good question on the kind of how detailed, because it's a spectrum. I think there's some guys that really just need like some very quick tips, like, hey, stop drinking 3 juices with breakfast, or you know what I mean? Like very like basic tips, or hey, eat every couple hours, or maybe try to eat before bed if a guy's trying to gain weight or whatever, like very basic tips that you've all heard. Some guys just need that, where other guys need like a truly detailed, like, hey, please just tell me what to eat. 8 a.m., what do I need? 12 p.m., what do I need? You know what I mean? And so that's that. And then we have some guys, they want a chef. So then it's like, can you please just set me up with a chef, tell them exactly all that I need. I don't even want to think about it. And so there's guys that do that. And then there's guys that will actually prepare meals for. And yeah, preference is always important. Allergies, obviously very important. We get that information as soon as we sign a guy. Our doctor will send that information over to us and make sure that we're all aware of all the allergies. And then we do some food sensitivity testing stuff every once in a while. So we'll take that in consideration if we're doing prepared meals for guys. But yeah, it's tough. I mean, like, for example, it's like on the road, we have some pescatarians, so some guys that only eat fish. And so we always have to have a fish option. Like we always have to. And even if that's only 3 guys, you can't not have that, So it's like challenging, because all these guys do have their own personal preferences. Obviously you can't tailor to every single person at all times, especially now in this whole grab and go world that we're living in. You can only have so many options, but we try as much as we can to cater to everybody and everybody's needs. And we've had a few vegans in the past, and so now you have to have these certain items every meal. We've had a few celiac athletes, and so we have to make sure, just be mindful of the bars that we have and the meal options that we have, just to make sure that they're taken care of as well. So it's kind of an ongoing challenge. But yeah, I guess I would say, to wrap it up, there's age-wise not really a factor. It's really everybody is kind of on the same level there. And then, yeah, we can get as detailed or as non-detailed as a guy wants to go.
All right. The next question is for me actually is two questions. It's a two-part question. The first question is you coming in for the Eagles like during like a winning time in 2016 when I believe Doug Peterson picked up and transitioning to like the Eagles not doing so good as later year came on. Do you ever get any type of like backlash like when the team isn't doing good? And my second question is um from a nutritional standpoint, how do you guys motivate athletes outside of facilities and like i.e. like off season to keep up with their nutrition and eat properly?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's when I look back at my experience like with the Eagles, so 2016, I think we went like 6-10 or 7-9 or something like that. So it was, Doug Peterson's first year, and we were all kind of, yeah, every time you like join a new staff, it's like a honeymoon period, like where the first year is kind of like everything's gravy. Even if you don't win, it's like we weren't terrible, we still won 7 games. I think we were close to making the playoffs. So that is what it was. I mean, honestly, I don't remember any backlash from that year. I think everybody was kind of whatever. But again, like I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt because I'm not from Philly, and I definitely didn't understand the passion of the fans and things like that before. So some of you guys probably sitting there like remember 16 really well, but 17 obviously was like a incredible year, won the Super Bowl. And so again, I think, but the thing with that was, we had a lot of injuries that year. And then, 2018, we added a lot of injuries. And so I think like the backlash that we get is off injuries for whatever reason. I think the media market is so strong. I think they'll paint these pictures, the injuries, and they're trying to blame them on somebody, right? Like you probably see it. And usually it comes down like on us or medical or like both. So in terms of like wins and losses, like we don't ever feel backlash. Like if we just lose a game, it's not like the strength coaches suck and the nutrition program sucks and all that. But it's like if guys get hurt, so if a guy pulls a hamstring or a groin or an ACL, it's like it's our fault. So that's really the backlash that we feel. So it's unfortunate because obviously like you can't prevent all injuries. All we can try to do is mitigate risk. You know what I mean? So we can't prevent injuries in a sense. And it's tough because like, how do you know how many injuries we do mitigate, right? Like, because all we know is like who gets hurt. So how do we know that maybe he couldn't have got hurt worse if we didn't do X, Y, and Z or that type of thing, So it's a two-way street. But at the same time, I mean, I do feel like there are injuries that are on us a little bit. I think there's some injuries that we can definitely help with and that we do help with. And so, but to like blame all the injuries, every single injury on the performance and medical staffs is a little bit far-fetched in my opinion, but that's just like that's what we signed up for here. I think the media and the market we're in, and like, unfortunately we've had some injuries over the last couple of years, and that's kind of the narrative now. And so it's on us to try to fix that. So yeah, long story there is like, that's the backlash that we feel the most. And that's not really losses necessarily. It's any type of injuries. And then like in terms of keeping guys motivated in the off season, I mean, again, it kind of comes back to when we send them away, like we'll send them a letter we'll always give them a book with their training program and their nutrition plan and nutrition tips and grocery store lists and all sorts of education and stuff. But again, the off season they're off, and even like when they come back, like we're not even really supposed to talk to them much technically in the off season. So they're on their own a lot, or working with trainers or whatever that may be. But in their head, I mean, we give them a body composition goal and we give them their body weight goal. So they know what they got to come back into. So I think that's the biggest motivator, is they realize that when they get back, they're going to have a report body weight and they're going to have a report body composition, and the coaches are going to see that. We're going to see that. Our general manager is going to see that. The head coach is going to see that. So if you come in and you put on 3% body fat and, you gain 10 pounds, like people are going to be like, what'd you do? Like guys don't want to come in and be embarrassed like that, where now they look like they're out of shape and they didn't train all year. So yeah, I mean, that's really the motivator, is like, hopefully guys are more intrinsically motivated to come back and actually be ready. And it's like an injury thing too. Like you don't want to come in and be out of shape, like you haven't ran, and then now all of a sudden you're covering 30,000 yards in a week and you're going to get hurt. So I think there's a lot more intrinsic motivation that goes into guys getting ready, but we can't control anything in the off season. So it's a little tough there.
All right. Next question is from Al. He says, do you, the Eagles, offer nutritional advice not only to players, but also to coaches, staff, and other employees? And how much emphasis do you guys put on health for all Eagles employees, coaches, to ensure they can perform at their best levels?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I mean, I think we've been a lot better recently, like especially with the COVID, and I think we really try to focus on the immunity piece of nutrition. Obviously, coming back after COVID, so we gave everybody, all the coaches, staff, and even the coaches' wives, so nutrition education on immune system health and kind of ways to help manage your immune system through nutrition. We gave certain supplements and things like that to all coaches and their wives. So we try to help like that. I mean, and then we help on individual basis. Like if a coach comes down and is like, hey man, I need help. I mean, there's been plenty of coaches that we've talked through some weight loss programs. We've had coaches lose weight and have better blood markers. We'll have some coaches elect to do the blood work. So it's very individualized. I mean, we help. There's a few people in the front office that we help, with nutrition plans and exercise plans. And so we're very open. I mean, anytime anybody needs help, we're always here. So it doesn't matter what department or anything like that. Like we'll make workout programs for people. We actually, I mean, I'm glad you brought up because with COVID, we can only have 15 people in the weight room at one time. So we had to build 2 outside weight rooms. So we have 2 tents now. So each tent has 6 squat racks and basically everything. I mean, it's a whole nother weight room. It's just in a tent. So coaches are not allowed there to be in the weight room, like the actual weight room now. So we basically, every morning, we kind of have an early crew. So 2 of us come in, open the tents up, drag some equipment outside for the coaches. So we do that make sure that they're, staying right and staying healthy, because that's obviously very important as well. And then, we do, Mondays and Tuesdays, the players are off early, but we'll do dinners for the coaches because the coaches work late. So we'll make sure that the coaches are still eating good meals and staying fueled up that way. So I definitely think, they're definitely in the back of our minds at all times and making sure, it's just as important for them to stay healthy as the players.
Okay. Next question is from Amanda. She says, if players go off the plan in place for them, are they penalized? Is there damage control, hangovers, or is there meal monitoring only certain times of the week? And are there cheat days?
So we're just talking nutrition wise?
Yeah, we're just talking nutrition wise, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's definitely big boy rules. So it's not really, I'm not really a big fan of like meal monitoring in that sense. Like we do mandate breakfast. So basically a guy has to check in at breakfast just to, number one, make sure they're here. Number 2, make sure they're eating that meal. We don't mandate any other meals at the day. So if a guy doesn't want to eat lunch, like that's on him. You know what I mean? But like really, it's very big boy rule. So if we give a guy a nutrition plan and he doesn't want to follow it, or we have a certain amount of supplements that we think a guy should have and he doesn't take them, all we can do is just talk to him and really try to sell him on it and coach him up on it. But at the end of the day, it's their decision. I mean, really, like the only things that we can, kind of find that, I mean, really the punishment in the professional is just fine, just taking their money. I mean, that's really like the only thing that we can do. It's not like we can go run them or make them clean the weight room or some of that like college type of stuff. It's like you just take their money, but you can only do that off like certain things. Like obviously the weights are one of them. If they miss so like if they don't show up for breakfast or whatever, like they could miss that. They could get fined. If they miss a lifting session or if they're late, we can fine them for that. If they show up late to a meeting, if they miss a body comp, you know what I mean? Like, so there's certain like things that we do that they can fine them for, but you can't really fine them for like not following your nutrition plan or not taking a supplement, because that's like a little bit unethical, I think. Like if a guy doesn't want to take a pill or whatever, it's like you can't like fine the guy for not wanting to do that. It's a personal preference. So nutrition's tough in that, where strength and conditioning is a little bit more cut and dry. It's like, hey, the lift starts at 8 a.m. and if you're not in here, you're going to get fined, and obviously we'll work with guys. Like there's some lifts or something that some guys can't do. And it's not like we're going to force everybody to do one thing, but they got to work with us too.
Hey, this is Amanda. I was just gonna also clarify. Thanks for sharing, by the way. I'm sort of coming from the perspective of like, if they have a great big win on an occasion and they come back and it's like, oh, how are they gonna come back from a celebration that's so crazy? Like, is that where the nutrition weighs in too? Like, that's where I mentioned the hangover cure, or is that not really a thing because they're actually so strict and like not celebrating as hard as we're like thinking on the sidelines as
Yeah.
fans?
I mean, I think there's a handful of them that are definitely celebrating pretty hard. Yeah. I mean, we're not like ignorant to that. Obviously, we even brought it up. During training camp, they had like a Friday night off because in training camp they don't have curfew, or they have curfews every night at 11 p.m. And then like coach will give them like one night a week where they don't have a curfew, and so it's like, guys, like, we know you're gonna drink, or we know you're gonna go out. Like, we're not stupid, but do this first, like hydrate first. And we try to give them like, come in and eat breakfast the next day and that type of thing. So we try to like help them out, but and we, some guys will track their sleep, and so there's like certain things we do and stuff. But yeah, we know guys are gonna go out and get after it every once in a while, and maybe they probably should. I mean, I don't blame them.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. The next question we have from Andrew as well. He wrote, how specific are like the workout routines off season when it comes to focusing more on weights, like for individual players, individual group of players, like running backs, linebackers, DNs, et cetera, like that?
Yeah, I mean, the way we split it up right now is we have a bigs card, like a bigs weight room card. So that's O line, D line, and it's kind of specific to them. And really like more specific, I guess some of the lifting, maybe more bilateral stuff, and then some of the speeds, like they focus more on some of the absolute strength type of stuff. So maybe their speed targets on certain lifts are different. And then we have a mids card. So that's for, running backs, tight ends, linebackers, and quarterbacks. And quarterbacks kind of have their own thing because they're kind of a special breed. And same with specialists, like our special teams, like kicker, punter. Those guys kind of have their own little card. Because like I don't know, like some of them, they're just kind of different with how they want to approach training. And then we have a skills card for wide receivers and defensive backs. So those are different. So if you come in our weight room and all three position groups are lifting, they're all three doing different things. So we try to individualize it per kind of position. And then within that, we have a modification sheet for guys. So like on my clipboard, I have, okay, bigs. This is the card that we're doing today. So today we have Kaiser power squats, and we have barbell back squat. We have a single leg med ball curl, dumbbell bench. I'm just trying to think of actually what we did. TRX row, and then a Kaiser chop and lift or something like that. So a core. But let's say a guy has a shoulder injury, or a guy has a shoulder issue, or let's say a guy has a low back, like a lumbar issue where he can't barbell back squat anymore. He'll have his own card that says, hey, he's going to do a pitch shark or a leg press, or he's going to do a box squat or whatever. So then like within the group, there's a specialized card for that player if he needs a modification, if that makes sense. So we'll end up, obviously you don't want a lot of modifications, but I mean, at the end of the day, these guys, they got issue, you know what I mean? Like they got knee injuries and shoulder injuries. I mean, it's a tough sport, so we got to work around guys' injuries. So not everybody's gonna be able to do everything you want them to do. Not every guy can do a snatch or a hang clean or whatever. And there's there's other ways to develop power and strength. And so we always try to work around that. So yeah, it's individualized. Not every guy has their own workout. You know what I mean? Like we just don't have the staff or time to do that. But I also don't think that that's really necessary.
Right. So from this point on, I'm just gonna call your name, and you can read your question out loud because I don't want to miss and scare anybody's question. Or so Stephen. Oh, so Stephen's mic doesn't work, so I'll read his question for him. Does your program fluctuate as the season goes on, or does it remain consistent throughout? I think he's referring to strength and conditioning.
Strength and conditioning program?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it changes. Like I said, I think in the off season, so from April to June, again, we have really the only time of the year where we really do a lot of speed training on the field. So we'll do a lot of our plyometric progressions, a lot of sled work, pushing and pulling sleds, a lot of our top end speed work, a lot of like wall drills and posture holds and things like that. So all those things, we don't really do that anymore once we get in season. And then the weight room stuff is definitely heavier. I mean, the intensities are a lot more, the volume is a lot more. So, we could do very heavy triples and doubles and singles. We can do some high volume, 8 to 10 reps, really getting guys sore and those types of things. And then, like I said, once we go to training camp, we do a very traditional 4-week block, basically. So we'll repeat the same days and weeks for 4 weeks, and then we'll switch the block completely. So that's, we do that through the off season, obviously. So like April to June, we're not doing the same thing the whole time. The first block of April will be something, and then we'll transition to something else. Usually we're progressing something. So like, for example, if we do a clean pull for the first block, we'll do a hang clean the second block, or whatever that may be, whatever that looks like. Maybe go from a kettlebell front squat to a barbell front squat, or we try to do some type of very basic progressions like that. And then once, like I said, once we get into training camp, it's very mobility focused block. So very low intensity work, low volume, just kind of movement, tempo work. So the tempo might change. So maybe we want them to go in 3-second eccentrics and things like that. And then, yeah, once we get in season, I just feel like it's so flexible in season, and it's almost like a daily undulating where we have a plan, but based on like the way the game goes, maybe we travel, we got to travel to San Francisco. We don't get home till 7 a.m. Like, we're not going to come in and grind weights, you know what I mean? Like off the plane. So now that lift is going to be different. And so we change so much, like we have to adapt so much, which is how it should be. But, we have a workout card that we use, but it's like, it's so ever changing. It's definitely a live document, but yeah, definitely kind of undulates throughout the year. And really the way we do it is just with intensities. We use the gym aware, so we could barbell back squat the first block and we're trying to hit a 0.75 meters per second. And then we transition to more like speed strength. So now we're trying to hit 1.0 meters per second. So the weight's coming down. It's the same lift. We're still squatting, but now we're going for speed. And so there's so many different ways to change it up. So I don't know if that really explained it, but yeah, it changes every 4 weeks essentially.
All right. Next person with a question is John.
Hey, Mr. Minnis, thanks for coming today. I just wanted to ask you, so with your program from the Eagles, how does that differ from like all 31 other clubs? Like, is there some methods that you guys use that no one else may use, kind of just in that way that you might notice?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, my first thought is like, this is the only NFL team I've ever been with, so I don't really know, in a sense, but I would say I do think we're very, very fortunate with the resources we have. I know not every team, I don't want, spends money like we do, right? Like we can pretty much do whatever we want in a sense if it's going to help our team. Like that's the type of support we have from the top. And so obviously we have to justify it. We can't just go buying stuff, but like we can if we feel like a force plate assessment is going to help our team, or we feel like this piece of equipment or this type of bar or whatever is going to help, like we can get it, So I know not every team can do that. So I do feel like we have a lot of resources, but that's not always a good thing either, like overwhelming guys with all these different options and stuff like that. But I would say we're definitely like nutritionally, I don't think anybody has as many resources we do with the quality of food we have, the amount of options that we have. We're pretty liberal on like supplements and things like that, where I know a lot of teams aren't. And then from the weight room standpoint, I would say like our facility weight room is probably not like that much different than everybody else in terms of space and things like that. But I do think like a lot of the assessment tools we have, like the tracking that we have on the field for like our GPS, I would say the gym awares and some of the Tendo type of tracking for power and velocity we have on the lifts is, unique. The force plates we have for force assessment and asymmetries, Nord board for hamstring, assessment. We have a groin bar for adductor assessments. I mean, so I do think like we probably have, and I would say we have an in-house software development team basically. So we have like an in-house like data mining system where I can like generate report. Like if you say, hey, can I see the body weights for this person their whole career, I can generate that report in 10 seconds. You know what I mean? So like we're very blessed with like some of the data management stuff that we have. And I know not every team has that. So yeah, there's definitely probably things that we have that a lot others don't, but I can't speak too specific because this is really all I know.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Next question is from Sean. I believe he wrote in the chat that he's leaving. So I'll ask the question for him. He wrote, I'm very interested in the gut to brain connection. And you mentioned earlier specifically on the effects of sugar and gluten on the brain function. And he says, do you talk about this to your players, especially since they are playing a high contact sport?
So, I mean, I would say, I guess the things that definitely like impact the gut the most. So gluten can affect the gut negatively, but like only like 20% of people. So we have to be kind of careful, like generalizing that to the whole population, because that doesn't happen a lot. So not like if all of us eat gluten, like again, I think it's like 15 to 20% of us might have like an adverse effect to that. Which is like high, but it's not like not everyone should go gluten free. So I wouldn't generalize that as like gluten is bad for the gut. Only in certain people it can cause intestinal permeability or like leaky gut, if you've heard of that. And then sugar wise, obviously I always say the poison's in the dose. So like sugar inherently is not bad. Obviously too much sugar is, but really too much of anything is, right? Like you could drink too much water and die. So are you going to tell me that don't drink water? You know what I mean? So like it's the same with sugar. It's the same with artificial sweeteners. It's the same with the poison's in the dose when it comes to nutrition. So yeah, sugar to an extent at high levels can maybe cause some dysbiosis. So like a worse gut and cause some leaky gut and some inflammation. But, you know, artificial sweeteners, I would say, I would even put that before that. NSAIDs, you know, ibuprofen and things like that. And then antibiotics are probably the worst thing that you could do for your gut. Obviously, it's an antibiotic, so it's kind of like a atomic bomb in your gut. It kind of wipes out good and bad bacteria. So no, I mean we talk about gut health. And you know the biggest thing you can do for your gut is eat fibrous foods. Fibers are prebiotics, so fibers feed the bacteria in your gut. And so the way I was explained to it that has always stuck with me is that, you know, there's obviously a lot of different varieties of bacteria and things like that in your gut that all have different roles. So, you know, some, you know, to the brain, some not. But I was explained to it like, you know, all those bacteria are like animals on a farm, and the prebiotics and fiber are feed. So you wouldn't feed the same, you know, feed to every animal, right? Like every animal kind of has a specific feed. So getting a variety and a diversity of foods and fibers and things like that from different fruits and vegetables and whole grains, that's kind of how you can kind of optimize your gut. So we really don't say like, you know, hey, don't eat gluten or stay away from sugar and things like that, just because I think that's a little too generalized.
Okay. The next person with a question is Maggie.
Hi, yeah, so this isn't quite as much about the act, it's more about how you got to your position working for a pro team, especially with this job increasing in interest.
So you're just asking like how I got here, basically?
Yeah.
I say a lot of luck and patience, and yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, everybody's kind of has like a long story. I mean, like it's honestly like a lot of luck, really, because the way this kind of all worked out is when I was at University of Oklahoma. So I'll take you back. When I was at University of Kansas, I was a business major. So I got a business degree in information systems from the University of Kansas. And when I was a senior there, I met one of my best friends now, who's, and again, randomly met him, I think at the rec center or something like that. And then his uncle was like the VP of marketing for the Jacksonville Jaguars NFL team, right? So my buddy Garrett ended up going to intern there when we were at KU. And then when I kind of found my love for, you know, when I was a senior nutrition exercise, I kind of decided to finish my degree and then switch completely. When he was in Jacksonville, there was a gentleman there that was a strength coach and a registered dietitian. And he was like the first person I'd ever heard of to have like a dual role and to do both. And so I kind of was like, hey, let me talk to, you know, like connect me with this guy. And then, so we exchanged a couple of emails back and forth when I was like a business major. I was like not even close But I was just like, hey, I'm kind of aspiring to do what you want to do and would love to keep in touch. And he was like, yeah, sounds good. And then, fast forward when I was in my dietetic internship now, like 3 years later, he came up, he was with the Eagles at that time. And I reached out to him for an elective rotation and I interviewed for an internship and ended up getting the internship, and the rest is history. So it's kind of like one of those things where, luck got me in the door. And then obviously once you get in the door, you have to, show your skills and make sure you can keep your worth. So, they kind of always say it's who you know to get you in the door and what you know to keep you in the door. And so I think that's very true with professional sports.
Thank you.
All right. Next person with a question is Mike.
So, Mr. Minnis, so when you're programming for your athletes for strength and conditioning, what are your movements that you use for explosive power? Like, do you use plyometrics? Do you use like Olympic lifts? Like, what kind of movements do you guys use to train explosive power?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, again, everybody, strength coaches, you could probably ask the whole staff and they might have different answers. So this is just me. I can't speak for the program as a whole or whatever. Just me as a strength coach, and my personal opinion is, number one, I think there's a lot of different ways. I think you got to think of power in two planes. Like, you got to think of it vertically. Like, can you produce power vertically and can you produce power horizontally, right? So forward and up, because I think a lot of people will just focus on like the vertical force transmission. So hang cleans and vertical jumps and plyometrics and things like that, right? But the way I think about power production is, can we do it vertically? Can we do it horizontally? So like horizontally, like you can push a sled, you can pull a sled, you can broad jump, you can do weighted broad jumps, you could do broad jump med ball throws, you could do barbell broad jumps. The way you kind of like we have Kaisers and Kaiser power squats, you can kind of go more at like an acceleration angle, horizontal angle. So there's like, that's the kind of way I think about it. Like, I think a lot of people are just like Olympic lifts till they die, and I think Olympic lifts are great, but I think there's a lot more efficient ways to produce power. Like, honestly, probably my favorite exercise is a trap bar jump. So just like a non-counter movement or counter movement trap bar jump. So load the trap bar up, stand there. It's so easy. Like, you can't mess it up. You know what I mean? Like, just jump as high as you can and with weight, So I would put a trap bar jump over a snatch or a clean any day, just because it's just so easy. You know what I mean? Like, just jump as high as you can with as much weight as you can. And obviously, if you have the luxury to track power outputs, then and give objective feedback, then that's even better. But yeah, I would say, obviously that the kind of Olympic lifting is a gold standard. I would say the plyometrics, I think being creative, because I think some guys can benefit from just body weight, just jumping and bounding and things like that. But I also think some guys need the resistance. So, different med ball stuff and sleds and things like that. But yeah, long story short is I think about it in two planes and not just vertical. So always think of, are you balancing out, are you getting vertical and are you balancing out your horizontal jumping and power production? And that's like, even like a glute bridge, a barbell glute bridge would be more in a horizontal plane if you think about it.
Yeah, and with those trap bar jumps, like, I'm really glad that you're like talking about simplicity, because like, with professional athletes, it's like, from my perspective, it would just seem like, you're just trying to get them better, not make them Olympic lifters, right?
Right.
So like with trap bar jumps, are you like loading up the plates, like loading the plates up on the trap bar, or are you just like using elastic bands and just telling them to jump up as fast as they can?
Do either one, but we just use more weight, like plates, just like literally just put a plate on, do the jump trap bar. Again, you can do it from the ground. You could do it from a non-counter movement, so from the hang, so where you just load and then just all concentric. You could do it kind of like a normal, like dip and go, like a counter movement jump. So there's ways to change it even there. You could do rapid, so you could load, jump, and then continue to jump with it. That's a little bit more extreme, obviously. But again, like, we have a gym aware system where we can put a tether on it and actually track power output. So I mean, it's like a dummy proof, because if you hit 2,500 watts last week at 135, like, let's put up 155 and see if you pass it. And if you don't, then it's too heavy, And if you shatter it and you go 2,200 watts, then put more weight on and put more weight on and put more weight on, put more weight on until you drop. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, definitely. I have one more question. So this COVID-19 pandemic has really made me think about like internships and stuff. How has the internship experience really changed like how you guys have like prepared interns for this off season?
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we always have 2 nutrition interns and 1 strength intern for training camp, and we couldn't have any this year because they tiered we had a very limited amount of staff. Everybody had to be on a tier. So coaches, players, and they only had like 20 tier 1s, right? So people that touch the players every day. So we're tier 1, but we couldn't get like an intern to be on tier 1, And then you have like tier 2 people that kind of are like that. The GM is in a tier 2, like the owners in a tier 2. So like those people aren't even tier 1s. So it was just unfortunately like we just couldn't have them this year. So I'm hoping that changes because I love, giving people opportunities, and it's definitely a win-win situation. So I think like it's been really hard for people, not only like full-time jobs and things like that, but I think people looking for internships has been a really, really tough time because teams just can't like take interns right now. I mean, and it's not their fault. It's just like the protocols like just don't allow. It's like less is better at this point. But it'll change. I mean, it'll hopefully get back to quote unquote normal.
If Mike is finished, Al had one more question.
Yep. Thanks, Mike, so much for coming out today. You talked about obviously the nutritional dietary plans and also the weightlifting, but can you talk a little bit about the flexibility and the stretching kind of component to that also?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole, I guess the way I think we, obviously recovery is kind of its own separate section, and so obviously nutrition falls under recovery. That's a staple, and then sleep. So sleep's tough because a lot of these guys like to stay up late and play video games and do those types of things, and we can't track sleep. Kind of, we can't make them track their sleep. So we have certain things like an Oura ring. I'm sure you've heard of that. That guys can take optionally and track their sleep. So that recovery piece there. Is there, but then we have cold tubs, we have a pool, lukewarm pool, we have Normatec compression boots, compression tights, we have you can get on a bike for a flush, we have blood flow restriction equipment, so all sorts of stuff. And then when you get into like mobility and stretching, like before we start every lifting session, we always do a soft tissue station, so a foam rolling station. We have like the Hyperices, which are like vibration tools. So we have the Hyperice, so we get on soft tissue, and then we'll go to more like a hip reset. I don't know if you've ever heard of PRI, postural restoration. So some breathing and some hip reset, and then we'll go to like a mobility activation. So we'll do some, ankle mobility, dynamic, and then we'll move up to some hip, groin, T-spine. We're very big on T-spine mobility, and then we'll do some activation. So active hamstring raises or sideline adductor raises, or, external rotation, internal rotation, whatever. I mean, there's a million ways to do it. So that's kind of the way we do that. And then outside of that, like we can have our own recovery mobility sessions. And so the way I think about mobility, we always go after the joint capsule first. So we do a lot of banded distraction, joint type of stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen any of that type of stuff before. Just focusing on the joint capsules. And then we focus on the sliding surfaces. So again, like the soft tissue stuff. So foam rolling, Theragun, massage therapy, those types of things. And then thirdly, really is like the stretching, kind of like the static stretching that you think of. We don't do a ton of that. We do more like PNF type of stuff with like breathing, so if I'm stretching a guy, I'll make sure that he contracts to me and relax, contract, relax, contract, relax. So we're always like very intentional. Like we don't do a lot of just passive sitting and stretching, because I do think that's a little bit of a waste of time, in my opinion, or it's just not like a good bang for your buck, I think. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
Perfect, thanks. Rock chalk.
rock chalk, baby.
We have another question from Mike.
Yeah, so I'm kind of interested about this RPR and PRI. So first, what does PRI stand for? And what are your thoughts about using RPR and those tools in the NFL?
PRI stands for Postural Restoration Institute. So I think it started at Nebraska. but it's just very like, it's about kind of like realigning your body is kind of their whole deal. And again, it's like a little bit like, you know, your body's not completely symmetrical, right? Like you have a heart on one side of your body and those types of things. So it's not like everybody's in a perfect alignment anyway. And so, but it's really just about like kind of making the best use. We do a lot of posture restoration in the hips. So what we find is like, you know, with your hips right here, like we find a lot of guys are obviously anteriorly pelvically tilted, right? So they're in like an extension a lot, which is what athletics, you know, you're in extension a lot, which is fine, but we kind of try to find that yin and yang. So we always try to bring the hips back into neutral as much as we can. Because if your hips are rolled forward all the time in extension, obviously you get tight hip flexors, your low back gets tight, your low back's on stretch, your hamstrings are on stretch, you know, your rib cage is up. So we always just like when we do our breathing, we do it a lot, honestly, like very basic, just like pelvic resets, going into like posterior pelvic tilt and trying to bring and we just use that by like kind of placing our feet up, getting our hamstrings on, bringing our hips up, breathing. We do a lot of like focus on like just breathing techniques, just breathing correctly, not chest breathing, breathing through the diaphragm. So that's kind of the gist of the PR. It's obviously gets a lot more complicated than that, but that's a very basic explanation of it. And that's kind of how we use that. And then I think are you talking about like RPR, like basically like RPE for lifting?
It's like so RPR is reflexive performance reset. So like there's been some controversy over using the you know, the system, like at Texas Tech more specifically, like the coaching staff got in trouble because like they were like physically touching the female athletes and kind of like doing those kinds of things with the athletes. So like you know, what are your thoughts with like using that system and how can you kind of like not get yourself into that kind of trouble?
Yeah, actually, I've never even heard of it, so I'm gonna have to look that up. But yeah, I've never even heard of that before. So I guess we definitely don't use it. But I'll look into it though. What's it called? You said RPR?
Yeah, reflexive performance reset. The co-founders are Cal Dietz, Chris Holford, Chris Corfist, and JL Holdsworth.
Y'all check it out.
Yeah.
All right. So it seems like we have two more questions and night off. John, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, so the big thing that like everyone's talking about this season is like speed, especially like in the wide receiver group and defensive backs. So like what would you have to say are your favorite speed training drills and concepts or just like beliefs kind of?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think number one, like draft faster guys and, you know, like get guys that are already fast. You know, I think that's like first and foremost. 'Cause some guys are just fast naturally. And so that's like number one, just like recruiting and personnel. Like if you want speed, get people that are fast, you know. But if you want to make people faster, I think there's two different ways. Because for example, like receivers, we have you know, there's a guy on our team that could get faster, but I think his deficit is more in force production and power and strength. Is like, okay, if we get him stronger and more powerful, can he apply more force every step, right? Which will then, you know, speed is made of stride length and stride frequency, right? If you think of it like that. So just stride length, stride frequency, how far are you going per step and how much force are you applying per step? And they're all interconnected. So I think this guy, like, I don't think he applies enough force. I think he's fast, like fast twitch enough. He's just not applying much force to cover much ground, if that makes sense. So for that guy, I would focus on just, you know, strength in the weight room, bilateral, unilateral strength, and then the power stuff that we were talking about, whether it's, you know, jumps, vertical jumps, horizontal jumps, sled work, heavy med ball throws, things like that. And then there's another guy maybe on the other spectrum that he's plenty strong, plenty powerful. He's just not really fast twitch enough. And I'll focus more like speed stuff. So all unresisted things, unresisted jumping, you know, quick, rapid jumping, long bounding, things like that. Like in the weight room, I would keep the speeds very high. So even on a squat or a bench press or really any lift, it better be fast, you know, always just fast. And so that's kind of how I think about those two things in terms of like force. So I wouldn't train those two guys the same way, but we have the same goal. And then there's some guys that it's like technique based, you know, technique focused. So a lot of guys are, again, overextended when they run. There maybe be butt kickers when they run. Like if you slow running down, you know, from the side, like it's pretty, there's like some very basic principles that guys need to do, you know, like when their foot's and touching on the ground, is their other knee, right next to their other knee, or are they reaching? Where their arms at, like what's their torso doing when they do, when they kind of cycle through, is their foot kicking, they're hitting their butt. So there's some things that we look at, and there's some guys I think that have deficits based on technique. And so in that point, I think like doing a lot of posture holds and wall drills is important. So you could do acceleration holds, max velocity holds, just holding positions and like feeling positions, I think is powerful. And then for those guys, I think there's some certain drills that you can do for like front side mechanics. I think a big one, if a guy runs like extended and he's like reaching, putting a med ball in front of him and just having them run with a med ball, like trying to get their knees to a med ball. Honestly, like that seems super simple, but that cleans up so much like front side mechanics, because you can't reach back when you're holding a med ball when you run. So again, and then there's like wicket drills. There's all sorts of like different drills and stuff that you can do. So it's like very dependent. There's not like a one size fits all when it comes to speed training.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Our last question for the night, Andrew.
Yeah. First, thank you for your time. But I was just wondering if there has or are right now players that like have more stricter dietary restrictions. Like I know you mentioned like pescatarians and people with like celiacs, but I guess more in the sense of like vegans or vegetarians. And are there foods to like accommodate for them?
Yeah, I mean, when I think back in the past since I've been here, I mean, we've had, array of different things. We've had guys with celiac disease. We've had guys that, claim to be gluten tolerant, gluten free, or they eat gluten free. We've had banana allergies, peanut allergies, coconut allergies. Shellfish allergies. I mean, we've had all those major allergies at different severities, right? Like that's important too. If you have a peanut allergy of low severity versus like a peanut allergy, like I could die if I'm in the presence, you know what I mean? Like that's very different. So like depends on how we kind of program things and what products we have. Luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had a lot of guys with like super severe allergies. I mean, we've had guys with diabetes before. But yeah, we've had pescatarians. I mean, we have a couple right now. We've had vegans. We don't have any, true vegans right now. But yeah, we're always just kind of like, when we sign a new guy or whatever, we definitely try to get their preferences. And like I said earlier, if we have pescatarian and we have a vegans and we have a guy that eats gluten-free, like we have to always have, snacks that have that meet those requirements. We have to have all of our meals meet those requirements. When we go on the road, it's very challenging, so in the airplane, post-game meal, at the hotels, we have to like accommodate everyone. So I feel like we do a pretty good job of doing that for sure. So I mean, for example, like post-game meals, say we have 150 box meals, but we have of 2 vegans, like we'll just have like 5 vegan meals. And so we'll like specify, hey, we need 5 vegan meals and we need 2 gluten-free meals for post-game or whatever. And then those guys, when they come up through the line, they know that there's something there for them. So yeah, we're always just kind of adapting. And then, some guys will all of a sudden want to be vegan randomly. And so, then we'll just have to accommodate there and talk through them with that. So it's definitely ever evolving.
Right about now, I'd like to open the floor to any last remarks from anybody that's viewing right now. Okay. Well, I just want to thank you on behalf of the ESSA for coming out to us, Mr. Minnis. We really appreciate you. The pleasure was ours. And again, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys inviting me. And if anybody ever has any questions or anything like that, you can reach out. Always happy to help. Always happy to talk shop or help any way I can. So always happy to do it.
What's your best contact information? Email, Instagram, social media. What's the best for you?
Yeah, I mean, whatever. My email, it's just my first name, M, and then my last name, Minnis, at eagles.nfl.com. And then, I mean, I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and I don't know. I don't really post. Like, Instagram, it's like, I don't really post, like, it's just really my personal account. And then Twitter, I guess, is probably a little bit more of a professional account. But yeah, email is good. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Take care. Have a good one.
Have a good weekend.
You-
Yep.
Have a good weekend.
Yep. Go Birds.
Word.
That win on Sunday.